Hello there. I wanted to give a list of my medals uh, for sportsmanship at the Olympics. Um, I'll start out and I'll put links if you want for to see these if you haven't seen them already. As far as the gold medal, it goes to Morhad Amdouni of France. He was born in Corsica. He's a runner, seems to be single. Um, and he's been a runner for quite a while. He wins the gold for he ran in the marathon, and every so at certain distances they put tables of water for the runners to grab so they can have something to drink or use it to cool themselves down a bit. What Morhad did was he knocked down all the bottles at this table so no one else was able to have a drink of water. Now, I want you to ask yourself, is this the way you were raised to behave? Is this the way you think other people should behave? And then ask yourself, as I'll say in the next segment, is this just gamesmanship? Is it bad sportsmanship? Or is it, as I and many others might think, a bit of larceny, a bit of evilness to his actions? Because nowhere in my mind do I think this is acceptable in sports or in life. I just think this is terrible behavior. I can't imagine a Canadian doing this. I always liked when I was traveling and someone says, "Where are you from?" and I would say Canada. It was such a great feeling when someone would say, "Oh, Canada, they behave properly. They do things correctly. You can always rely on a Canadian." You can't, how do I say it? There's no other feeling like that, to have someone compliment you on your country's behavior collectively. So then, let's go to the silver medal. That goes to Stephanie Labbe. I did a video on her a couple days ago. Now, here's what's interesting. I have a friend who's a lot younger than me, millennial, and he thinks what she did falls under the category of gamesmanship. I happen to disagree wholeheartedly. I don't think it's gamesmanship. I think it's I didn't think of a proper adjective. I just think it's what when I grew up was called poor sportsmanship. It's acting in a way that's doesn't fall under the category of collective behavior of what one should exhibit when competing. So I'll leave it at that. If you want to watch the other video, you can. I studied sports psychology for a bit. It was a new phenomenon at my university, and so all the top guys were there. And so I know a lot about sports psychology. There's on your side dealing with what you have to overcome and do the best you can. And then there's dealing with what the other side might do to you. I see in the NFL, they'll call a timeout just before the field goal kicker comes on. That's acceptable. It's a bit childish, but it's acceptable. When there was the NBA, the Giannis was taking free throws. The fans tried to distract him by chanting 1, 2, 3, trying to throw him off his game. That's acceptable. It's also childish, but it's within what they're allowed to do. What Stephanie did was wrong for a couple reasons. Think of it this way. Would it be acceptable to make a motion of a gun or of that type of intimidation? Is that acceptable? Do you not fear you might be triggering someone who may have something in their past dealing with that type of thing. I've told some people, my brother was a hockey player. I've seen Gretzky and I've seen Bobby Orr, and I thought he was better than them. But he was not able to go to the NHL because he was given a barrage of N-word by the other players. Now, in those days, they said, oh, that's gamesmanship. That's just trying to throw him off his game. Nowadays, we know that's not permissible. Soccer players have walked off the pitch because of that. It's just not in keeping with any norms of society. And I just think it's not good behavior. As far as the bronze medal, I just thought of one. I was going to say, I'll leave it for an honorable mention. The bronze medal goes to the Judo competitors who wouldn't fight the Israeli competitor, saying they didn't want to get dirty. I forget the exact quote they used. This is just not acceptable. If you think that way, then you shouldn't come to the Olympics to compete, right? And this is what I speak to, why the Olympics should be canceled altogether. We've lost the collective feeling of competition and getting together, and it's become an win at all costs, do whatever needs to be done. And that culminated in the Winter Olympics with Tonya Harding clubbing Nancy Kerrigan. This behavior should not be acceptable by anyone and under any circumstances. And it's sad that we have not eliminated this in the year 2021. An honorable mention would go to any athlete competing who is not able to do so clean. There are many. The Economist says up to 40% of the athletes are using steroids. I would venture to say it's even more than that. Not only steroids, growth hormones, EPO, and the list goes on and on. I happened to catch the end of the marathon the other day, and I was admiring the runners from Kenya. And then I just looked up on Google quickly and did a check, and I discovered an article that says all the runners from Kenya, with the exception of Kipchoge, are using some illegal form of steroids. This was news to me. I used to admire the athletes doing the marathon, but I'm not naive. I'm a little more on the cynical side, and I realized that, hey, maybe they're doing something illegal too, and sure enough, they are. Most people wouldn't be aware of this. I wasn't. There was an article saying there's about 50 of the runners who have been banned from competing, but they have so many they can just select another. So I think it's typical now of competing. It started with the German swimmers in the 60s, I believe. I only knew about it when I was a teenager. And what happened from them, the Chinese asked those scientists to come over, and they helped them put on, help their athletes. So they started a doping program. The Russians started a doping program. They were both caught and told to stop it. They both said they would, and neither of them did. So that's where it's at. Everyone who's competing is potentially doing something illegal. I wasn't naive when Lance Armstrong was caught. There was the Irish journalist. He was very good, very dogged. He was onto a story, and he had to put up with a lot to prove he was right. There was 60 Minutes who did a story on Lance. They were told they were going to be sued, so they had to kill the story, but then they finally did it later. So only the naive or those who really want to believe that their athletes are clean can do so. We're in a new world now where win at all costs seems to be the the norm, sadly. So let's cancel the Olympics. It is no longer viable. Okay, bye-bye.